Oh, we are having some small technical difficulties, but we're here. I don't know why I'm talking like that. And I just realized I didn't do this, so I'm going to open this really quick. We have another episode of Wearable today. It's an awesome episode because I said so. And today we're talking about today we're going to be talking about the 5 things that the future of wearable technology. We're also going to be talking about shoes that change patterns. We're going to talk about. We got 3 articles about the Apple Watch. Watch as the date comes to the fruition of the 20th or 21st, whatever the date is, and of course some cool stuff in the crowdfunding space for wearables. And of course, this is the show Wearable Today. Welcome to Wearable Today. My name is Jeffrey Powers. You can find me over at Geekazine, Think Magazine, Put in a Geek, and as always, from a secret remote location in the Arizona desert or the Texas desert. You're in the Texas desert, so Mr. Luke Wallace.
Hey Jeffrey, how you doing tonight? Yes, this is a heretofore unseen location.
Crash! He crashed! He went down like the burning Ides of March, or something like that.
Hold on.
Are
I
you doing
think
an April Fool's joke on me? I think it's an April Fool's thing.
I am not intentionally doing anything like that. So, yeah. So, yeah, maybe we'll just oh boy. So, we're
Okay, so he switched computers because the webcam wasn't working. He
hmm,
switched computers because the audio stopped working, but that turned out to be on my end, not his end. And now he's in the remote location, and his laptop has completely died. Um, and the first machine was a Mac. This machine is a Windows machine, so we're equal on everything. Are you on the
yeah.
wireless or are you on a LAN cable?
I'm on a land cable.
Wow. Maybe the wife's downloading the House of Cards or something like that in 4K, possibly.
I don't think so. So
All
I don't
right.
know what's going on, but yeah, we'll see how this goes today.
All right. Well, let's start it all off. Let's get into the big news, Little Arms. And I'll do the roar because Luke just crashed out roar. And oh, hey, that's the wrong screen. Boy, we're on a roll here. Welcome to the show. How you all doing? Are you having a good time? Because we're having a great time here. All right, let's see what happens here. Let's do that, and we'll do that, and now we'll do that. There we go. Luke's still trying to be here. So anyway, Xiaomi, I think that's how you pronounce it, is looking to launch the first smartwatch tomorrow. They're a Singapore-based company. They're having a conversation with the online forum when their CEO, I think it was, hinted to the fact that a new wearable watch and an event on March 31st will be coming. Xiaomi is currently selling the Mi Band wearable device, which you can find over at their website and go from there. So, fair warning, because I'll tell you right now, if it wasn't for the technical difficulties, we would have come up with a nice little April Fool's joke. But apparently, the April Fool's joke is on us because the whole thing's crashing and burning at this point in time. Um, all right, so Luke's there, and I'm not hearing him now. So, and of course, that might be me as opposed to him. No, that's you. That's me. There, now I can
Yeah.
hear.
So
There
yeah,
you go.
I'm gonna be messing around with stuff. We're doing it live, and yeah, I don't know how well this is gonna work. I'm trying to switch to a microphone that won't cut out when the webcam cuts out,
Oh,
but
don't worry about that unless that's
yeah,
what's causing the whole thing to go kapooty.
don't know. So anyway,
All right.
yeah, do you want me to grab that next one?
Yeah, why don't you grab the next one? We'll see what
So
happens. So,
we've got shoes that change patterns. That's crazy, but I will take it. So the Volvuri timeless shoes use e-ink to change what is actually displayed on your shoe, the pattern of it. You control the pattern with your smartphone, and the shoes are in an Indiegogo fundraising session right now, and they start at $249. Pretty cool, actually.
Oh yeah, I was seeing a little bit about this. It's like your e-reader in a shoe, which is pretty cool. So, all right, well let's move on. Let's check out this wearable drum machine because I am the human drum machine. Watch this. No, no, okay.
Pretty good. Pretty
Well,
good.
not really. So, but anyway, check out this it's a wearable drum machine, and it's more of a concept than anything. Coat with several pad sensors, which allow for different sounds, from drum sounds to actually making music. Just tap the part of your belly. You can see the picture of this guy putting on the coat right there. It looks like a regular coat. It's just got a bunch of pads on the outer end, and you tap wherever you want on your chest or belly or wherever the sound is. The coat was developed by Yelenia Gortana and in collaboration with musician Birdmask. So these are prime names, Birdmask and Linea Gortana. So, and it's a concept idea, so don't expect it to be on like Kickstarter or something. Like maybe it will be, maybe it won't be, but you might have to go somewhere to actually see this coat in action. And it looks pretty warm too, which is really cool. And they got the video over there. We got the link in the show notes. So, and that's with this big news, tiny hands section. Exactly. Now, and the reason why we had a short big news, tiny arms is because we have a big Apple Watch section, and we're going to start over at, let's flip that over. There we go. We're starting over at iClarified. Walking in and buying, the process on which the Apple sales works. And this is interesting because it goes completely against the whole idea of the Apple Store. And the reason why is because these suckers are small. And I have a feeling, especially with the $10,000 Apple Watch, they won't want those out. They'll want them tied down, knocked down, whatever down. So what they did was they created a whole bunch of display cases, and of course they also have the safes in the back. So if you're thinking about actually going in and doing something in Apple Store, you're going to really have to work at it. Simple as that. So, but anyway, some of the pictures, the display cases, you'll see the Apple Watches are in the display cases rather than out to be touched. You'll have to actually ask for one, and then they'll bring it out and go from there. So, and as you can see in this picture, it doesn't even look like you'll be able to put on the watch onto your wrist. So I don't know if that's do you think that you'll be able to actually put that on your wrist, Luke, or no?
Probably not. Not just standing there. I mean, they talk about having a line or some sort of queue that you kind of get in, and then you'd be able to try them on. Try. It sounds like with the next article that you can't even necessarily try on the watch that you want to buy.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a good segue. Let's just go to the next article here. That was over, I can't remember what was it.
It was on Mac Rumors.
Well, the first
Uh,
one's on iClarified.com. This one is on Mac Rumors. And yeah, this is if you can't, you just you gotta assume. So you might as well just buy it online because they're giving you absolutely no option to see what it's like and feel what it's like. You'll get to touch the Apple Watch, but that's it. You won't be able to check out combinations or anything like that. And I have a feeling as time changes, as the Apple Watch, people start buying the Apple Watches, that will go away, and eventually they'll be out like the iPods and stuff like that, and go from there.
yeah, I think the takeaway from this article was that you can't say, well, I want to try this watch with that band and see how that looks, and like they'll basically say, well, you can try a sport. Sorry, you can try the regular one, or you can pay the 10,000.
We should try the call in. Isn't there a way to do a phone call in?
Let me go. I'll go grab something else if you take this last one.
I'll take the cum. I'll take him the cum. So anyway, the big thing, of course, is the Apple Watch is now April 10th is the day that you can actually get your order your Apple Watch online, $399 and $349, or whatever the number is, and then April 20 20th or 21st, I can't remember, is where you can actually go to the store and stand in line and all that other stuff. So with that, we're going to be seeing lots of apps. And this is over on Mashable.com. We've got, they're talking about some of the apps that are already ready for the Apple Watch, like the boiled egg timer, because you need a boiled egg timer. We'll open up the gallery here and take a look over here. Let's do that and that. So we have the boiled egg timer and the roast with Justin Bieber, which just happens to be the ad on there for an boiled egg timer. Anyway, we've got, it looks like a running app right there, or a timer app or a heartbeat app. And of course, there's going to be many, Facebook is going to probably have its app on there, and Twitter will definitely have something on there. There was a hotel app. Let's see. Oh, that's the Expedia app right there. So you'll be able, when you get in, and this is really cool, because how many times have you walked into a hotel with bags in hand, and I got my backpack on, I've got my camera case in one hand, I'm doing the roller bag. Sometimes I have another bag in there, and I'm rolling into a hotel, and pulling out my phone is almost impossible, and I end up pulling out my phone and trying to open it up, but instead I could do the watch and possibly a quick click or two and go from there. And I can't wait for the Delta and American Airlines and Southwest Airlines to have a watch app where you could just put your wrist underneath the little scanner and check in while you're trying to get board the plane. So many different apps. Was there any apps right now that I have you on audio at least there, Luke, that you saw that was interesting?
There were a few that kind of look neat. I like a lot of the fitness tracker stuff. Yeah, I know that there's a lot more than this. I've seen tweets going around because apps are starting to have Apple Watch things in their release notes, in their updates. So there's definitely more to it. There's more than this. So don't think that this is all there will be day one.
Yeah.
But yeah, like any sort of the fitness stuff, and then there was one about the podcast player, being able to kind of see what's going on there.
Yeah.
Being able to listen to stuff, control things.
Yeah, I'm guessing the iTunes player will be readily available there. So, but basically those are the apps, and whatever you see on your iPhone, whatever you see on your iPhone, you'll definitely be getting on your Apple Watch. And so with that is this segment called Apple Watch. And so Luke, you just realized I let the cat out of the bag. What are you doing?
It was a click clock of a clock. Click clock.
Oh, tick tock of the clock. So you see, this was my surprise to Luke.
Oh, that's pretty nice. A little gold is best, right?
Yeah,
gold is best.
Well, here's a story. 2 years ago, I had my iPhone 5 stolen, and that's when I switched to Windows Phone. I had that for a little while, and then I switched to Android phones. There's many different reasons why I switched back to an Apple iPhone. And I will tell you the biggest issue I had with an Android phone was the Hangouts app. And what really bothered... No. Here's the problem with the Hangouts app. While, yeah, the concept is great, they mixed your Hangouts with your SMS contacts. For me to actually pull up an SMS contact was like trying to rip, I don't know, it was just super difficult. When I want to check my text messages, I don't want them mixed in with the Google Hangout messages. I want them separate, because I know I want the people that have my phone number, my regular phone number, are friends and family. Nobody has my phone number other than that. You have 608-205-4378. That's hooked up to this Hangout app, and I want that to for people to call and get that. And I want those two separate. because I want to be able to turn that off when I have that opportunity, when I'm sitting in a meeting or something like that, and I don't want those notifications. And it was just a basic mess. That was the biggest reason why I wanted to switch back to iPhone. The other reason was simply the fact that I get Android phones all the time to review. I always seem to have two or three Android phones in one given time. I don't have an iPhone. And so I'm starting some new programs, some new videos, and I needed an iPhone, I needed an Android phone, and I need a Windows phone. I'm still working on getting the Windows phone, but I have better opportunity at getting that rather than the iPhone. It's basically been said to me that Apple does not give out review iPhones because it just doesn't make sense to them. They have the market.
Yeah.
So that is the main reasons why I got an Apple iPhone. And so that comes to the question, will I be buying an Apple Watch? Right now, my immediate way, I'm not going to get the Apple Watch right away. If you want to get me an Apple Watch and send it to me, I'll send you my address. We'll do that. But it's $399, and it's just not an expense that I can justify right now for the shows. If we were doing hundreds of dollars of profits here, and I'd get paid, and Luke would get paid, and Bertie would get paid, then I could see it. But we're not getting paid for this stuff just yet, and so Apple Watch is just far down on the list right now. So
Yeah. I would say if anybody else is watching and they're kind of wondering, there are actually some apps. There's even one from Google called Messenger, which is a very generic name, so it's kind of hard to find. But Google makes one called Messenger that's made specifically for SMS and MMS messages. So you can separate them out. A lot of people had that complaint that Hangouts was I don't mind that it's all combined. To me, that works great because then I don't have to figure out which messaging app to use.
yeah,
For text messages or Hangout messages. But if you wanted to keep them separate, they actually do have a separate SMS and MMS app called Messenger, and the icon is super generic with two little text bubbles, and but that is an option that's out there. So
yeah.
but yeah, I can definitely understand that because it can be confusing that you're like, wait, did they text me? Did they Hangout message me? What exactly is going on here?
Yeah. And the bottom line is I still have the Nexus 5. I'm not gazelling it by any means because it's probably worth $25. It still has a computer value to it. So it's sitting on my nightstand right now. And if push comes to shove, it's a multi-SIM option phone, so I could actually stuff a SIM in there from a carrier and get a 2-month phone plan or something like that, and be able to use a phone. So I now have the option of showing stuff on the iPhone and showing stuff on the Android phone, as opposed to my 3GS, which sits over there and doesn't do anything.
Yeah, not many things run on that one actually.
Yeah, no, actually they do. Facebook doesn't do too well anymore, but some of the basic apps, like for instance music apps, there's a tempo thing that I use all the time on there, and a tuner program I use all the time on there, so stuff like that. It's still useful. So anyway, with that said, how was your week?
It's been doing okay. These technical difficulties are getting annoying. We're gonna have to try to figure out a way to get rid of those. But it's been a good week. Because of all these technical things that we were trying to solve, I didn't have time to post them yet. But you could look for pictures on my Google Plus of the hackathon that I spoke at.
Oh yeah,
last weekend.
Okay.
So that was Friday night and Saturday, all through the day.
That's
so
cool.
I spoke there a little bit about Internet of Things and hung out, and AT&T was sponsoring it and gave out a couple $1,000s worth of Amazon gift cards to the winners.
Nice.
And then also an Ollie, which is one of the little Bluetooth programmable little devices that runs around. So
That's cool.
yeah.
That's cool. The other good reason, the other reason why I really wanted to get an iPhone was because of the streaming programs. Of course, last week, 2 weeks ago, Meerkat was the big thing at South by Southwest. Twitter banned it and then came out with Periscope. I was actually using Periscope on this thing a couple nights ago, doing some recording, and I got that up on one of my YouTube channels. But I started thinking to myself, gosh, if Meerkat and Periscope were around like 6 months ago for Google Glass, how cool would that be? You pair it up with your Google Glass and you do a Meerkat from there or do a Periscope from there.
Mm.
Wouldn't that be cool?
Well, I mean, they used to have where you could do a hangout from Google Glass, and in theory, you could do a live hangout
Yeah,
on air through that. I mean, it'd be more work than having a broadcast thing. And so I know there were some live streaming options, but yeah, I mean, all that stuff went away. So
yeah. Well, it's nothing about like what Periscope and Meerkat, because basically you're getting a list of comments coming up into the video, so you
mhm.
can read them as you go. You're looking at the camera, and you can read things as you go. So if somebody says, "Hey, you're doing a nice job," I can turn around and go, "Well, thank you very much,"
Yeah.
and go from there. So I'm really happy about that. But so anyway, that's been my weekend on there, and of course your weekend. It sounds like you had a cool weekend, and you said the pictures are up on your G Plus, or
They will be shortly. I will work on getting those up before we get done here. So they should be up. If you're watching this live, they're not up just yet, but they will be up shortly thereafter.
okay, cool. All right, well, let's go on to our next segment here, and that is Fund Me. We've got a couple articles in the Fund Me section today, and we're going to start over. Where are we starting over at? I don't have that queued up just yet, and it's not queuing up. More technical difficulties. Gotta love it. There we go. If you are a Pebble user, then you should check this out. It's called Time Dock for Pebble. And of course, the Pebble 2 had surpassed, what was it, like they got like 20 million on this round of funding through Kickstarter?
Yeah, that's what I
And
heard. 20 million raised.
yeah. And so it's crazy. So now, of course, you're going to see a whole bunch of cool Kickstarters, and this is I don't think this is made by Pebble. This is made by a third party company. It's called the Time Dock for Pebble, and basically it's a recharging stand for your Pebble watch. The Kickstarter project gives you the wireless stand, and so your Pebble can also can all set on there and charge, probably using the Qi wireless charging option. I'm guessing you have to bring in your own cord into the situation, but you'll also be able to have your watch standing up so you can see if it's charging, you can check the time, and all those other cool functions. They looked for a small goal. They're at 16,000 right now with 27 days to go. So check that out and support them. So I don't have a Pebble, so I'm not going to get one. But Luke, is there somebody in the office that has seen this or?
I haven't seen anybody talking about. I know a lot of people have been talking about the new Pebble because they are definitely considering it a serious alternative to the Apple Watch
Okay.
because it's so much cheaper and just as functional for a lot of what people want to do. So I think these kinds of things where people can dock it and charge it easier will be popular. But I haven't seen anybody talk about this one in particular.
Okay. Well, of course, it's a Kickstarter, so we'll go back over to the. Got too many buttons here. There we go. We got. We'll go back over here. We'll take a look at the page a little bit. As you can see, somebody putting it onto the charger, fairly easy, and you got some different colors here. So if you don't like the black, this looks like a 3D printed item, and I bet you there's some sort of 3D printed item out there that will match this and use the charging system. Unless I'm pretty sure Pebble uses the Qi charging system, right?
I don't know. It looks like there's a couple little notches on the back. So I would think that I think it's hooking the charger for the Pebble into this little dock so that you can set it down quicker and easier.
Yeah. So, But anyway, some great. It's like was it $200? Their first backing group for the original $149. I think that's full. Um, and then 200. No, I'm sorry, and it's not even that. It's like $40 and $70.
Yeah.
The monitor's too far away for me to really read it. Let's zoom that in a little bit. There we go. So they got yeah, it's $40 or more, and you can get the charging dock and go from there. So, but anyway, that's pretty cool, and so check that out. It's over on Kickstarter. We'll have the link over in the show notes and go from there. All right, that brings us to the next story here. Smart Stones. It aims to reinvent the way we communicate using nonverbal cues to interact with the people we care about the most. You can tap or swipe across the stone, and these actions will be translated and sent to other smart stones or smartphones. So you read a little bit more about this, Luke. What were your thoughts on this?
Yeah, this is really an interesting idea of using just taps and gestures to interact with other people. So to explain how it works a little bit, and they've got a great video that really outlines it, but you can tap through, it looks like three main sections on this little stone, but it also has gesture detection. So if you draw a circle kind of around the outside edge, or you could swipe, across, the whole stone from top to bottom or bottom to top, and it would be able to detect all of those differences. And so once it does that, you basically set up little macros for each one of those, so that, let's say you tapped, twice at the top and then once at the bottom. That could send a message to your child or your significant other, and how you, what you set up that message to say is really up to you. So you set up these patterns. They have a little app that you would set up what each pattern means, and then it would send that text message to, your friend, your significant other, whatever. It's really meant for just those few people, like you said, that kind of that, your phone number friends, right? Only a few of your friends actually have your phone number. Everybody else kind of gets at you via email. So it's that same kind of thing of this isn't really for everybody in your life to have these and use them to communicate. It's really for just, a few people. And so, and they have a lot of interesting ideas, like people that maybe can't
I've
verbalize.
I've fallen and I can't get up.
Things like that. Like if you were able, if you fell or you needed help, you could tap on it in a certain way, and it would detect that and send a message to the right person so that you could be notified. And so it's a really neat idea as far as what's possible there. And yeah, you could give, and another thing is it's completely self-contained, so there's there's no ports to clog up or things. So it's very robust. And so they're saying you'd even give it to small children, and that way if they are they need help from mom or dad or whatever, they could tap on their stone a certain way, and that would send a message saying, "Hey mom, I'm done at school. I'm ready to be picked up," or whatever it is. Practice is over. Can you come get me? Without having to give them a full phone. And so it's a really interesting idea.
Well, they need a phone to pair it with, wouldn't they?
I think they're envisioning a lot of different things. Let's see. At the bottom, they have all the technology that they wanted to put in it. Because like a SIM card, it wouldn't be able to do that. So, Bluetooth. So some sort of Bluetooth. So yeah, maybe it would need some sort of phone to actually send the message. So that's a good point.
Does that with stuff like this? And I like this idea. I mean, and it looks like you can get the necklace for $39, which is great, because I could send, if I was in a different town and I had a child and I wanted to let them know I was thinking of them, I could activate that, and all of a sudden their pendant starts glowing. They know I'm thinking about them and stuff like that. I like this idea a lot, but I'm wondering if that means that the way of the smartphone is going to actually change. For kids. I mean, they don't need a big phone like this or an Apple phone like this, but they need something that'll have Bluetooth to GSM or CDMA type a network. So would they end up getting a phone like this, or would they get a smaller phone, kind of, or what was those, the jitterbug phones, where they had the big
Yeah.
big numbers and stuff like that. So you have only a couple people to call, but the pendant, by the swipes and dashes and dots, you could actually call somebody that you really needed to.
Yeah, I think people that are, they talk about people that are disabled or, can't vocalize real well. So either elderly or maybe, children that have
Hmm.
some disabilities, things like that, and using this as a way to help them communicate. I think it's really interesting because, yeah, one problem that hasn't been solved too well is, how does somebody that knows sign language communicate with somebody, you know, far away, right? I
Yeah,
mean, usually they just have to, they can text them, and that's kind of it. But what about, children or something that might not,
yeah,
be comfortable doing that, or
yeah,
might not have reached that level yet. It, might take them longer to get to that level, but they could tap on there and kind of, oh, this is the taps for "I love you," and that sends it to Daddy at work, and then he can tap back and say, I love you too, kind of a thing. And
hmm,
it's like that. I think that could be a really meaningful way of creating those connections. So I definitely see what they're getting at, and yeah,
yeah.
it's really really kind of interesting.
Yeah, I definitely. And you started talking about that. I was thinking of somebody like Stephen Hawking, who has limited mobility. Would he be able to use that? I used to, when I was growing up, we used to work with children with mental disabilities, and I remember one time we were trying to get this kid a brand new board for his wheelchair. So basically, it's a board that has all these pictures, and he points to what he wants to talk about. So, and of course, that's been replaced by iPads and stuff like that. But if they have a little device like that where they can communicate, and people get really, really into stuff like that if that's the way that they can communicate. I could see this be a humongous new wearable in the market, and some, of course, there's going to be other players in this market,
Yeah,
and I think we've already have some other players in the market.
yeah, and even Apple is validating some of this because I mean the Apple Watch, right? One of the things you can do is send your heartbeat or
Yeah,
tap out a message, right? So I mean this whole idea of nonverbal communication, already has some validation from major players like that. So something
yeah,
specialized like will this ever become really popular? Maybe, maybe not. But
yeah,
could the ideas that are in here become popular? Of like, oh yeah, I just want to be able to send a little more personal message through taps, through something, a little bit quicker than sending a text. I just want some gestures on my lock screen that will send a text message saying, "Hey, I'm on my way home," and I just kind
yeah.
of tap the phone, and I don't have to open it up and do a bunch of stuff because it's something so common. And like, yeah, that kind of stuff I could definitely see. So I'm guessing these ideas will be incorporated into other technology.
Yeah, especially for watches and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So you won't
exactly.
have another device on there. I think I talked about this a few weeks ago, but when I was at CES, I did see a wearable that did something very similar, but it was a sex toy. Did I talk about that on the show?
Yeah, I remember you did talk about that.
Okay. I do see them. They do have a crowdfund out there. But yeah, it's basically you have the watch on, and you could have your heartbeat going in through the watch, and this device would be hooked up to the Bluetooth on their phone, and it would vibrate the heartbeat, and so that you kind of get an understanding that they're there, and they're thinking of you and stuff like that. And I know you're thinking, well, in the sex toy business, where that how that's going to work. But if you think about it, this device you can also hold this device, and we talked about this in length, and they said, yeah, we're thinking about doing something so it's not really a sex toy, but it's kind of something for kids, and that, so they can hold on to it when they're sleeping, and they get a little vibration in the device, and that way they know that dad's thinking about them, and that would be cool. But it's really tough to kind of figure out how to do that from a sex toy, because then people have that, oh, it's a sex toy on
Yeah,
their mind, and you
yeah,
do really want to give a sex toy to a kid. So and that's what they've been trying to tackle. And I think these people have kind of tackled that situation perfectly. So.
Yeah, very, very cool.
All right, well that's it for the Fund Me section. Let's move on to the focus of the day, and the focus is 5 predictions of the future of wearables. And now this is an article that I saw over on what was it smashingboxes.com, and basically they're asking, where are the wearables going to make an impact in the next 5 years? And they came up with some different things here. And Luke wrote this down, so thank you, Luke, for doing that. 5 predictions included the data facilitized care, personalized wearables, active coaching, gesture-based interfacing, and authenticated you. Do you remember what the authenticated you was about?
Yeah, yeah. These are all real interesting ideas. Authenticated you is basically the idea that a wearable could be personal enough that it would really act as that authentication mechanism, or it could detect part of you in such a way that it could act as that. So something that could read your fingerprint or your heart rate or whatever, your eye vein, whatever they call that, kind of like being able
Yeah.
to like kind of do some sort of thing there. And basically you would have some authentication that is tied to your wearable.
That's cool. Yeah, and it just like what we were talking about before, for sure. So, we'll talk about data facilitated care. That's, I'm guessing that is healthcare, so people can stay in their homes a little bit longer, and when they need help, they can press a button and get that help. Correct?
So it's partially that. It's also just through the collection of so much wearable data, we'll be able to have much better care for someone, because you'll be able to monitor someone, let's say, so much more often and accurately that you'll be able to detect changes a lot quicker, right? Okay. So instead of going to the doctor every month, and the doctor taking some vitals and being like, well, your blood pressure's up a little bit, but I don't know if it's up, like, I don't know if that's actually significant or not, because maybe it's just, one of those variants and it's just up a little bit more today.
Okay.
So it's like, but if they could constantly monitor that, or look at your health data and be like, well, let's see, you haven't been exercising according to all your Fitbits and, whatever you've got, all your health data. We can see you haven't been exercising for the past 2 weeks. And so your blood pressure's up or your cholesterol's up or whatever. And we can, much more tie it to that, instead of just like, asking someone a couple of questions and trying to figure out, well, are you lying to me, or, are you just saying what I want to hear? Like, you have so much more data to really get a more accurate representation of what's going on.
I remember, and this was actually about 6 years ago. I got to meet and listen to Dr. Michio Kaku, who's just he's thinking way ahead of us for many years. And he was talking about toilets that you pee into, and it can come back and say, hey, you might want to go to the doctor because we sense something in your urine stream or something like that. Contacts that you wear that self-focus, and like Google Glass and stuff like that. And but the one thing that I started thinking of, and this comes from last week, with the Airbus that went down in Germany, and it's a sad story, and where the co-pilot basically locked the pilot out and crashed a plane, it's unimaginable. And you start to think of different ways that they could prevent that from happening. And one of the ways that I was thinking of is, if everybody's wearing a wearable and an event happens on a plane, everybody's wearable will start to record elevated heart rates and stuff like that. Now, what if that information could be then sent back to air control or something like that, and then they realize something's going on, and maybe try and find a way to stop it, take control of the plane, be able to open up the locked door to the pilot's area if they realize that the pilots are locked out, or stuff like that, and be able to save something simply because of the fact of how a crowd is reacting. Same thing like a football game or something like that. Of course, there's going to be heartbeat changes and everything like that at a game as your team starts to win and lose. But if real events start to happen, they can be alerted to it just like that because of how your wearable is reacting to you.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of that. We've talked a lot about sensors before, and I'll tie back into that hackathon that I mentioned that I was at this weekend. There's a couple of ideas out there where, with enough sensors around a city, you can get a much better idea of, pollution and elevated levels of whatever, smog or smoke, smoke detectors going off all in this one building. It's like, well, there's probably a fire there. And, even if there hasn't been an alarm raised yet. And so you can imagine something similar to that with wearables, right? Just like you're talking about, of if everybody's tying into the same system and people opt in and say, yeah, I'm okay with you kind of keeping track of this a little bit. They could monitor and look for trends that are like you said, a whole bunch of heart rates just went up in like this one, bank area, and it's like, there may be a robbery going on there because there's a whole bunch of people that just got really nervous for some reason. And maybe it's nothing, but
We should
30
check it
people
out.
getting, 30 people getting like elevated heart rates all in the matter, in the
Yeah.
same 5 minutes. Like, is this a gym class starting, or is it a bank
Yeah.
robbery going on? So
You have I remember the commercials for OnStar like 10 years ago, where you get in the crash and the OnStar comes on and says, "We've detected a crash. Do you need help?" And you go from there.
yeah,
But what happens? Let's say you're driving along, somebody jumps in the passenger side and carjacks you. Now, all of a sudden, your wearable's going off and your heart rate's elevated, and all of a sudden, that information could actually activate your OnStar or whatever the service is going to be in the next 10, 20 years. And then all of a sudden, they say, is everything okay? Or maybe they realize, well, maybe this is something we shouldn't ask the question and kind of monitor what's going on in the situation and put on active alert or something like that, and go from there. Things like that, and that's what's been kind of twirling in my brain for wearables in the last weekend was how can we take, because you have one end where you could actually do that. You could actually put on a wearable, and whenever your heart rate's elevated, it alerts somebody. But on the other end, there's that level of privacy. Do you? Because when you walk into a football stadium, your privacy is pretty much not there. And I always say this: if you walk into an airport, you're not on U.S. soil anymore, and a lot of people don't realize that you're being monitored tightly by TSA because of the fact they don't want somebody getting on a plane and crashing it. Simple as that. So whatever you do inside that airport is watched even more. And could they pull data from your watch at that point? I don't know, but that I'm not a privacy expert when it comes to stuff like that. But it's something to think about. When you get into an airport, when you go into a stadium, when you go into a government building, when you go into places where you still have rights, but they're really not as much of rights as you expect them to be.
yeah. And I
So,
think some of that ties into number 3 on this list, which is active coaching. So that's, looking at your needs and looking at your trends and your data, even just personally, and coming up with ways to encourage you to, let's say, be more active. Let's say that was the
yeah.
coaching, but it could also be, that personalized wearable of, hey, if I didn't tell you I'm working out and something's going on, this might be something that I need you to alert somebody. That was another idea that floated around at the hackathon that I was at was, women's safety and using
Yeah.
the Mio armbands to provide a way to hands-free indicate that you're under some sort of attack or you're in
Yeah.
danger or whatever. And so like this active coaching idea is kind of the reverse of that, of like I want the thing to tell me when I'm being too lazy. But you could also, like, it's kind of the exact same way, if you're too
exactly.
active, unnecessarily or like in odd ways.
Yeah.
So,
And we talked about that with the defense a couple weeks ago.
yeah.
And of course, being able to have a ban that basically sets off more of a alert to people is great. I don't know if it'll help the situation. In the end, people will be able to find you if you're like, let's say you're walking home and you get attacked or something like that. So that would be a good thing on the post part of it, but trying to get the prevention of the attack, that's the more important factor of that whole thing.
Yeah.
So but wearables, having a wearable that has that ability to alert somebody of distress or something like that, I think it's amazing. And as we saw with and gushed over with that Indiegogo project, we want something that, I guess it's a new form of communication in some cases, because we want to let our loved ones know where we are, what we're doing, and if we're in trouble. And
Yeah.
if they can do that with a simple device that you wear on your wrist, I'm all for
Yeah.
that. I don't have
Yeah.
anything to hide.
Yeah, that's
Do
the
you?
one that's the fourth one there, right? Gesture-based interfacing. So
Yeah.
it's, without having to tap or swipe or, talk, you can have something that, gestures and lets you, that becomes another input
Yeah.
as opposed to actually touching a screen and doing that. So yeah, I think a lot of these tie into ideas that we've seen come up before, and you'll continue to see and continue to be refined. So
Yeah.
good list. They also mention a couple of things about what's holding back these ideas. At the end of the article, they say, basically they try to answer the question like, well, why don't we already have this stuff if it's such a great idea? And one of the big things they talk about is battery.
Yeah.
They basically say like the batteries have been getting a lot better lately, but they're finally starting to get to a point where you can
Yeah.
have a small battery that lasts all day and does something useful. And that's what we're seeing with smart watches, that kind of thing. Of like you can like the amount of computing power in this watch, used to.
They said that the Pebble is what, a 2 week before you have to recharge, as opposed to an Apple Watch, which you recharge in 24 hours. However, that's just, I have a feeling that Pebble's just going to go back to the main functionality of a watch, and that is telling time. And it's kind of doing some monitoring, but not big monitoring. Of course, we know with the Google Glass, when everybody asked, "Are you recording me?" is like, no, we're not recording you, because we just don't have the battery or the memory for that to be recorded. But yeah, if once we get 10 years from now, this thing could probably have not just 16 gigabytes of memory and what was it? I can't remember the milliamp battery, but a battery that matches for a week's worth of charge, and a memory inside of it that we could record from Monday at 8 a.m. to Sunday night at 6 p.m. or something like that, and be able to upload it to wherever. We're just not at that point, and we don't want people to, if they're in distress, we don't want them to have their devices run out of juice before they can make the distress call.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but anyway, so is there anything you want to add to this focus list? I mean, there's a lot. They put in a nice 5-category thing. Is there anything that's missing? Maybe a 6th category or something like that you can think of?
Ooh, a sixth sense? Is that what you're saying?
Possible. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they're really trying to think forward. I hadn't really thought about something else. I mean, maybe something along those lines, like amplified memory or amplified abilities, kind of thing. These are all very kind of tech focused, but I think you'll see a lot more of the the kind of things we're seeing for prosthetics right now,
Yeah.
for people that are like missing limbs. I think you might start to see things that are not just for people that have lost limbs, but more, they're wearables that really help augment your own abilities. So they make you, stronger and faster. We've talked before about exoskeletons and those kinds of things, and those have always been much more military based than what we normally do, or than what we normally see. But I think you might see a lot of that stuff come down to the consumer level, so that elderly, you think about the concept of just healthcare, but having something where people are more autonomous and they can walk around easier because they've got this kind of robotic, this huge wearable that literally encompasses their entire body, but
Yeah.
it's still something that technically it's a wearable,
Yeah.
and it's a lot more
Like a big exoskeleton or something like that.
the big
you've
the
seen.
power loader from Aliens, right? That's
Yeah.
that's
When
what
I was-
everybody wants.
When I was at IE Spectrum at South by Southwest, they had I can't remember his name, but he was known as the Bionic Man because he had bionic legs. He had prosthetics that could help him run a little bit better and stuff like that. And not the curved blades that they have for runners and stuff like that. These actually looked like legs, except they were all metal and stuff like that. So we see some good strides, but definitely I wouldn't be surprised if one of these days we'd have a wearable which if I lost my hand in an accident, I'd put on another hand and I'd have full functionality to do things like play the saxophone or type on a keyboard or something like that. As opposed to most of the wearables, which are basically close and open type prosthetics.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So I don't know, that's one idea. Did you have any ideas, or are you seeing any other trends?
I don't not at this point in time, but I'm always looking. I'm always talking to other people, sure. And and of course the trends that you talked about could easily be put into one of these 5 categories. So I have a feeling these 5 categories are pretty well thought out. And but we'll see what happens. Somebody will surprise us, come up with a 6th category, and all of a sudden we're gushing about that and going from there. So, yeah. Who is gushing is Fernando Castro. He says hi from Brazil, and I just wanted to say hi to Fernando, who was in the Q&A there really quick. And
very cool.
So, yeah, very cool. So thanks for watching. If you're still watching, and of course tell all your friends, tell your friends, tell your friend's dog that it's time to watch this show. So anyway, that does it for this episode of Wearable Today. My name is Jeffrey Powers. You can find me over at the Geekazine, Geek Think Magazine. Put in a geek and go from there. And if your video is still holding up,
I'm Luke Wallace. I'm Luke Luco on Twitter. This is Birdie, and she's coming up to see the camera, and she's basically happy to see you, so stop by anytime. And you can email her at birdie@wearabletoday.com, BIRDIE @wearabletoday.com, and or you can email me, Luke@wearabletoday.com.
There you go. All right, well, there you go. And that does it for this episode of Wearable Today. Yeah, we had some technical difficulties, but things kind of worked their way out, and hopefully next week we'll be able to do that. And now in English. Yeah. A little scheduling note. Next week we have a show. The week after is still up in the air, as I still don't have my plans for NAB just yet. But if you want to sponsor me to NAB, just let me know. Geekazine. Geekazine@gmail.com, and we can talk about that. But at any rate, so that's what's happening. And of course, April Fool's Day. Like I said, we were going to try and do an April Fool's joke, but with all the technical difficulties, it just didn't happen. So this is the straight show. There's no April Fool's joke, and maybe that's the title of our show: No April Fool's jokes in this episode. And go from there. So, all right. Well, thanks a lot for watching. Thanks a lot for listening over on Stitcher and iTunes. We will see you next week with another episode of Wearable Today. And until then, you guys geek out and take care.